there is a need for fast tracking the talent, upgrading their competencies and skill sets, so that they do not cause any major disruption in the continuity of the requirement of the skills. So, to manage the business, that is one is the major challenge which we are going through. And one thing which supports this is our learning and development systems. But the conventional approach of learning and development is there are classrooms where people will go, there will be sessions like this, and at a time a classroom of this size can at most handle at least 50 to 60 if you have to really make this learning effective and useful. So, going by the huge amount of requirement, in fact, it is the existing systems are highly inadequate to deal with this kind of challenges. So, we thought let us employ again technology there. So, we started with the experiment of learning anytime, anywhere 24/7 irrespective of their locations by creating e-learning modules, which we have identified some of our younger talents and provided them this access of learning. And these learnings are also designed keeping in mind the kind of competencies which we require in an organization. So, for each of these competencies there are sets of learning modules which are available and which an employee can take at any point of time whenever he feels there is no restriction that he has to go to a certain place or a classroom or in a fixed hour that he can have this kind of learning. So, we are making heavy use of this e-learning modules which is accessible at any time anywhere, and we have tied up with some of the best in the world with Harvard. We have bought this kind of learning modules from Harvard and exposed to a large segment of our employees. At a time more than 2000 employees are going through this kind of learning modules, and we believe that this is going to truly help us in terms of actually fast tracking our requirement of talent to bridge this talent gap which is caused on account of this huge amount of separations which is happening. So, these are some of the new methods which we are actually attempting.
So, sorry, if you also have any questions you can, but I have at this moment like two things. One is the impetus for them to, how do you inspire them to keep learning through this, because modules are there, but I may not feel like okay why should I, it's fine, like aaj nahi kal kar lenge, aaj ye hai kal wo hai. That is one thing, like how to motivate them to complete their courses online. Second thing is that how to do the monitoring of that.
Okay.
Because whether somebody has completed that or not, what would be the monitoring schedules?
See, one thing.
Certain topics cannot be taken by e-learning.
Okay. First thing that when you design any kind of new initiatives and decide to launch it, you have to create some kind of element of incentives into them. That should be felt like this is something that just by getting in an entry into that kind of club, he is privileged. So, that feeling of privileged of being selected or identified for this particular initiative itself is a great motivator. So, what we did basically that while we it is not that we can't afford to have for all the 13,000 odd executives this kind of learning modules. NTPC will not go poorer by taking this kind of modules, but purposefully by design we kept it at a number of 2000 when we started with this and identified the talent based on certain criteria: performance, potential, the kind of work that he has done. So, getting selected for this program or nominated for this kind of learning opportunity itself acts as a motivator. That is in the first place. Second thing is, it is not that the initial euphoria of or excitement of learning will be there and then after that it dies down if it is not sustained or not monitored. So, we have a very close monitoring system in place, and the Power Management Institute is our apex body of learning which is situated in Noida, which is close to Delhi, and they are constantly monitoring, because being digital you have certain inherent advantage that you can see each individual when he has logged in, for how many hours, how many modules that he has covered, all other kind of analytics or data is available with you. So, therefore, a team is absolutely dedicated who is monitoring this kind of things, and wherever they have some kind of need for reminding people that they need to actually catch up, I think they are doing it. And occasionally and very recently I personally get everybody through video conferencing online and try to motivate those who have done excellently well to pat on their back. That is, public recognition itself gives lot of motivation to others who are fence sitters and who can do it. So the feeling is there that if he can do it, my colleague can do it, why can't I? And getting identified in a public that I am a non-performer itself is a stigma. Nobody would like to enjoy that, and particularly these people who are actually handpicked. So they would certainly not like to be identified as if they are the laggards in their learning abilities. So this is the second thing which we created, that occasionally at different levels in the hierarchy of the organizations, they are in touch with individually with those people through video conferencing. And third thing is, we are also very subtly giving a message that these are the parameters. The ability to learn new learnings is an critical ability in terms of when it comes to actually growing in the hierarchy of an organization. So that is also a kind of message which goes in. So therefore, up till now, our success rate has been phenomenal. And let me share with you, no other organizations to my knowledge in Indian industries have ever attempted in such a large scale this kind of learning modules used as a typical tool for building up the competencies of our employees. In fact, the earlier examples which I have come across, they are much smaller in scales or much longer in durations. But then we have our initial success is a great motivator for all of us, and I think going forward this kind of methods will come very handy for us in terms of actually building up and driving the capability of our people. That is something that we have very recently we have tried. You did ask about the industrial relations scenario. Let me tell you, when we talk about the new age industries and the kind of new challenges, there is so much of thrust on developing talent, and therefore the talent management, human resource development, these are some of the terms which are very common. And perhaps you will not be coming across much about the industrial relations laws, the strikes, lockouts, unions, trade unions, and all kinds of things are generally not coming as a kind of thing. But yeah.
Related question. Now there is this whole discussion about the new labor code, simplifying and all of that. So if you can also throw some light
Surely,
into that.
because we are also one of the party. The draft has been consulted. We have been contributing to that draft also, while this new wage code which has come up, which is going to be placed in the three codes which are essentially come up. So coming to the issue that we have also a very structured, and I would say that is the cornerstone of the success of our industrial relations in NTPC. It is a three-tier kind of structure which we have in place. It is heavily based on participative culture. So therefore, while the issues of collective bargaining like negotiation and things like that would continue to be there, but at the same time the issues like productivity, the kind of work environment, work related issues, the issues like safety or reduction of the wastes and losses, those are some of the issues are equally finding place while we discuss the issues with the unions. And we have three-tier structure at the lowest rung, that is at the plant level. We call it plant level councils, and in these councils the participants are essentially the employees or workers representative, which also includes officers in our case, and the top management which is there at the plant level, and they periodically meet, discuss those issues and try to resolve those issues. The one fundamental difference between a collective bargaining and other kind of mechanism with this participative forum is the decision which is taken in this kind of forum is not by majority. There is no voting which happens if there are differences in opinion, but by consensus. So till consensus is reached amongst all the parties, the decision is not getting implemented. So that is one subtle basic difference between the nature of this functioning. While it might appear that reaching a consensus might take some longer time, but having reached a consensus, that decision is owned by everybody, and therefore its application and its implementation success rate is very high. Unlike in majority decision cases, where you will find still about 49% of the people are aggrieved if 51% majority is taken for taking any particular decision. So they will not be so participative and cooperative when it comes to implementing those decisions taken based on the majority. So that is one fundamental change. Second thing is, if the issues are not resolved at the plant level, we have next forum which is at a next higher level, that is a regional level. We call it regional joint performance committees. And at the apex level, at this corporate structure, we have national joint performance committees. So these participative forums are very active in these organizations, and this has truly played a very important role in terms of maintaining our congenial industrial relation environment. As a result of which, there has not been any single loss of mandates in NTPC so far. That is the kind of success rate of this kind of. We are a large. If you can imagine, there are about 80 trade unions, and any trade union of national repute are on our consultative bodies, this kind of bodies, and some of the leading trade union leaders. If you name any of the major trade union leaders today, they are on our negotiation table. So despite this kind of heavy structure, we have a very well defined framework of dealing with industrial relations matters, and that is what I believe is the cornerstone of NTPC's IR success.
Sir, have you ever been around or been locked up longer and how did you find a solution
Earlier,
to come out?
few minutes back you told that the NTPC paid higher wages. Other ESU is also paid higher wages, sir?
Yeah. Now actually as far as wages are concerned, for non-executives it is a negotiated. But for executives, there is a common guideline issued by Department of Public Enterprises. So therefore, there is a lot of similarity in compensation structure of executives, whereas non-executives will find a lot of variance depending upon ability to pay and their productivity and ability to negotiate. That is what.
There it's better than the private sector.
Much better. You can imagine the entry level non-executive W0 हम बोलते हैं उसको, जो एकदम class 4 government का parlance में बोलते हैं. Can you imagine what is this CTC per se? I take out that medical component. It is 45,000. 45,000 per month. Besides, he gets a decent housing, decent schooling, everything. So
That's all taken care of other than this.
everything.
That's
House
pre-tax.
electricity,
Pre-tax.
schools,
Of course, it is pre-tax, of course.
Apart from this,
Going back to Rajeshwari ma'am's questions of motivation and monitoring with this e-learning, since I'm dealing with the training is
Okay, that's great.
in my company. In class and human interaction, we face so much of challenges when we conducting so many trainings. If you don't mind, I would want to study as a case.
Certainly.
That how does this e-learning impact this? Because I am training like around a 4 lakhs training a year.
Oh, that's great.
And then that is all in class and human interaction. We have so much challenges. So this impact I would definitely.
There was a question somebody raised that e-learning, how you are taking care of actually experiential learning, because lot of learning happens when actually implement certain concepts or learning at your workplace. So in these learning modules, there is an element, a part of there is a learning which goes through some kind of learning modules. There is an assessment based on which he is evaluated that how good or bad has been his learning. After doing everything, there is a project that he need to identify in his own area of influence and own area of work, where he will have to actually implement those, and that learning is also getting captured into the system.
Right, you call it follow up, but then to
Practice.
practice and follow up. I mean, I really want to just come and see
Sure.
the impact.
can I just add in, if you allow, since we are talking of the learning. So I have seen similar in my organization. There was it was the learning office was led by a very eminent personality, and similarly we had a central e-learning module which was available to all across the employee, which is 26,000 employees across India. But the uptake of the e-module was really pathetic. And that's where part of larger intervention, the entire learning structure across the organization was revamped. So currently there is a CLO who leads the Leadership Academy. Under that Leadership Academy, there are functional academies, like earlier, even the earlier session was talking about functional academies. So there is HR Academy, there is Finance Academy, PNC Academy. So each of these academies are typically looking at 1,000 odd employees. So those 26,000 have been broken down into smaller pieces and led by a functional expert guy, helped by the HR obviously. They are helping us not only planning the e-modules specific, like if in finance section GST has come in new. So GST, there are a lot of learning which will happen online through videos of experts, and there are many classroom training programs are need of the hour. So the particular academy will take care of that, whereas the leadership academy will help ensure that the common behavioral training programs are cascaded down, but ultimately taken care of by those functional academies. So thereby the uptake and the has been much
Not
better.
very much better. In fact, one of the fundamental thing while we offer this e-learning module is when you look from the perspective of the person who is actually undertaking this learning or whom you want this learning to happen. The first question that should be addressed to my mind is his question will be, what is there in for me? Why I would undertake this e-learning module? It could be your requirement or HR's target of covering so many number of employees through this e-learning modules, but why should I do it? If you can able to answer this question and built into the DNA of the entire fabric of this new initiative, there lies the success. And therefore, when I said that these e-learning modules, first of all there will be initial excitement. Anything that new that you introduce, there will be initial excitement. So, a lot of people will jump into this fray, but soon over a period of time this initial excitement will die down, and that is the challenge in terms of sustaining their this thing. So, one thing through which we can sustain is if we can able to truly articulate what is that is going to benefit that individual person, which an organization has to offer, apart from his individual development, which definitely will happen and he can add his values, that is different. But what an organization has to offer if he undertakes this learning, which will help him, if he can able to answer this, I think lot of positive support or collaboration which we can find through this process. And here in this case we have answered that question. We said that number one, that if you are actually doing it within a stipulated time frame, then that indicates that your ability to learn new things, which is so crucial, because the way the sector is going through a change, what was there in the past today I do not find in the business place. It is going very fast. So, my ability to meet this challenge will depend upon my ability to learn new things, develop competencies and meet those kind of challenges. So, that is a very critical